So Meredith and I go back a few minutes. We started, when I was working for a builder, when I first got into this industry, and I started getting my formal education with my CSP, my certified sales professional, all the IRM courses. Meredith was in Orlando, I was in Tampa, and a lot of those, we just crossed over a lot, and we ended up probably taking about half of those classes together.
Yep, we did.
So, and we became friends. We've been buddies ever since. We did the downturn together. How would we ever have gotten through? I don't know. So we were leaning on each other for support through the downturn, because our world and our rug literally just got pulled right out from under us for that. For those of you who are around for that fun, let's hope we never have to go through that again.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then, of course, through the association work that we do too, Meredith's very active at the National Association of Home Builders. She's a champion for the National Sales and Marketing Council. And I'm the chair of the National Sales and Marketing Council this year. So, we just keep trucking on, and it's wonderful. I almost just didn't say this. This is not right. I almost didn't say professional women in building. I mean, as professional women in building, I have to tell you guys, if you're not involved in that organization, get involved. Even if they don't have a local one, you can join at large, because true women championing other women and supporting other women in this industry, I mean, this isn't just something that they say. I've never had so much support as being involved in professional women in building. So I strongly encourage you to get involved with that organization as well. And, you can go to nahb.org. I'll put it up on a graphic in the video too. So we'll send you links to all of that stuff. But thank you, Meredith, for being here today. And I'm going to just quickly do my little intro, and then I'm going to turn it over to you for your fantastic introduction. So I am Kimberly Mackey. For those of you who may not know, I am the founder of New Home Solutions, and I have a box right in my way. So of course I have to move all that. I can't even see what's on the screen. My company, I like to say that I'm the person that they call in when they want sales to be the engine to drive the train rather than running it off the tracks. And as I was just sharing with Meredith, lately I've been doing a lot of management consulting and workflow consulting so that your buyers have a better experience. And this is not just pre-sale or through the sales process. I actually take it all the way through the build process and into warranty. And I'm fortunate to work with a lot of companies to be doing, I'm working with 4 right now, that's exactly what we're doing, is we're mapping out that customer experience, and good for them, because they know this market is not going to last forever, and it is changing. So if I can help you with that, definitely give me a call. Here's my website. It's newhomesolutions.com. And then for anyone who has been hiding under a rock for the past couple of decades, Meredith, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm the founder and president of Meredith Communications, and we do digital marketing for home builders. So everything from website design and development to social media management to SEO, Google Ads. If it's digital, we do it. I'm also the host of a monthly Zoom event called Builder Town Hall that happens the first Tuesday of each month at 4:00. And it's a lot like your event here, where it's a very conversational, what's happening out there, what are we freaking out about, what should we be freaking out about,
Right.
type of conversation. Yeah. So,
and it's really good, and she has a good panel on, so every month too. So you get a lot of different perspectives. So I really enjoy it. I try to attend when I can. And
you've been very supportive, and it's really gratifying to see when the chair of the National Sales and Marketing Council, who obviously has 3 million Zoom meetings on top of all her other work, takes a second to pop in. We always see it, and we always appreciate it.
Well, you guys are great. So
yeah,
the collaboration that, this reciprocal that we've all been doing back and forth, it truly has been for the betterment of our industry. And I can see the difference it's also a lot of fun because I get to hang out with my friends that I, normally would only see at these events that we go to together.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it really has made a big difference. I can tell.
I think we all had to, in the beginning anyway, we had to create an excuse to see each other, interact with each other, because it felt so isolating at first, but we've ended up doing quite a lot of collaborating. And I 100% agree that the industry is better for it. So it'll be quite the reunion at the Builder Show.
Oh, without a doubt. So yes, I hope you're all planning to attend. It's in Orlando this year, February 8th through the 10th. So buildershow.com. Definitely check it out. Meredith will be speaking. She'll be there. Carrie's going to be, there's a bunch of people who are on here who are going to be speaking. So really, really good stuff. So, and our own Angela McKay, who's on here, is going to join me on December 7th, which is next month. Now, Angela's going to be really busy that day because she's on the town hall at 4:00 and she's at noon with me. You can't get sick of Angela McKay. There's not enough Angela McKay to go around. So trust me, you will want to be on there. So Angela is a marketing genius. That's the title I've given you, Angela. I don't know if you're okay with that, but I gave you that title. She's with O'Neill Interactive, but you may know her because she's so famous from Lasso CRM, and just ways to do so many different things, get it all done, and still remain like one of the most zen human beings I've ever met. If you need to have that out exhaling moment, Angela is your person. So if you're struggling to get it all done like I am, then yeah, it is Angela Day. Every day should be Angela Day. And normally I don't cross over and do the promotions for these two different brands of things that I'm on. But this one, I'm so excited about this conversation that I will be having on Friday with my friend and colleague, Carol Morgan from Denim Marketing. We have Carrie White, who is the sales manager from Parent Homes, and Teresa Paleocious Smith, from Berkshire Hathaway Franchises. So they're both going to be talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and how much our industry can benefit from doing more of this and how to do it. So it's going to be phenomenal. Please register for this. I've given you my link tree because, of course, the Zoom link is ridiculously long. So you can go to my link tree and register for this. So that is not a typo. That is actually a URL to use. So I hope you'll join me on Friday for this. That's at noon on this coming Friday. So, and with that, Meredith, I'm going to put away the slides because this is not a webinar. It's a conversation.
Nope.
Yeah. So future vision, 2022 is rapidly approaching.
Yeah.
And we're all hoping things are going to be different. I think we're hoping things are going to be different, but in a good way.
Right.
But
I think different how is
right.
Really the question. Because it's probably not gonna, we wouldn't see like seismic shifts. We're still in this pandemic. We've still got certain underlying factors happening, but different how. And that's what I think we've got some good thoughts on that to share.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you too. So, ask your questions, chime in, share your best practices here. We love it to hear from you. So don't be shy. I see some of you on here that are not shy, and Trisha and Emmy, I see you on here. So you guys chime in. There's Justin coming in from Wyoming. So, let's hear it. We want to hear from you as we go through, and you don't need to wait till the end. The Q&A is disabled, so just put it in the chat. Yeah. So, yes, Meredith, that necklace is getting some attention.
Oh,
it matches your background, and
no, I don't know how that happens.
Meredith is
nerdy like that.
She's the queen of accessories for sure. So, well, let's start off. I know working with several of my clients, they're starting to plan events. Emmy, I know you got a bunch coming up. So let's talk about do's and don'ts and what we expect those events to look like, and some precautions maybe that people need to take.
One of the things that is different about you and I versus somebody that works for a builder in a market is we see markets all over the country, right? We work with different clients
Right.
in different markets. And I bring that up because in terms of the pandemic, let's say you're in a market in Florida, which is a state that's been relatively open, and
Oh, we're wide open.
I'm trying
People
to
dying in
remain,
the streets, doesn't
I'm
matter.
trying to
We're
remain
wide
politically
open.
correct, but a state like Florida has handled the pandemic one way, a Florida or a Texas, whereas like honestly, where I am in North Carolina, it's been quite a different experience.
Yes.
We still have statewide mask mandate. We still have a lot of restrictions that other states might not have. So I guess with this point for 22, I feel like it's safe to say in almost all the markets, even here in North Carolina, for example, events are back.
They are.
Yeah. And
In
so
big
if you're sitting there in Florida, you might be thinking, or Texas, you might be like, duh, like we've been, but for some of us, that has not been the case. Our Home Builders Association, just in the last 30 days, has held its first in-person event since the initial shutdown. So, just kind of know that Kimberly and I are addressing all of you, and we don't know what market you're in. So I think for 22, getting some events back on your calendar, because here's what we've seen is people show up. Like
They do.
Even in the middle of the Delta thing, when we were first starting to hold events here for the Raleigh Wake HBA, we had 500 people at Parade of Homes banquet. Now they were masked because, like I said, we still have a mask mandate, but I mean, it was huge.
Well, I know in Atlanta, they just had, their big awards, and yet nobody was masked. So one of our colleagues, held a thing as the Delta variant was spiking, and he held it in Texas, and I was just, shocked to see all these people there with no masks on.
Yeah.
And, people are, I think everybody has their own different comfort level, and, vaccines are pretty readily available for those who want to take them.
That's right.
So
I guess, and just depending on what market you're in and what the current protocols are, just keep in mind, I believe people want to be out and they will show up for events, and their tolerance level for going to an in-person event is actually quite higher than the level of restrictions you might still currently have in place or not. So I think it's time to get some events back on the calendar for next year and feel pretty comfortable with it. The question is, how do you plan something that somebody actually wants to show up for?
Well, yes, and because I think people have a different level of expectation. The same old is not going to cut it.
Nope.
And you do have to take some caution. You do have to take some precautions. Like I know I'm doing training next week for all of my Berkshire Hathaway peeps, and we still can't do that in person, even though we're in Florida. The builders don't want to take the risk of putting 30 to 50 real estate agents all together in a room and hosting it. So we're still virtual, and we still have virtual hosts. I hope that changes by next year, because I really would like to get out from behind my computer for that. But so you do still need to be aware that even your comfort level might not be everybody else's. So,
100%. I know that a couple of the national builders, at least for the Raleigh market, are still not allowing their folks to attend in-person events. Like there are some corporate mandates out there, but it's much fewer than I anticipated at this point. So if whether you're in marketing or sales, I think it's safe for you to get some events on your calendar. For me, what we see works best. I mean, education is always huge. People crave and want education. Realtors always need CEs. So education events are great. And any kind of value added event. So what I mean by that is if I'm a realtor and I can potentially win a prize, but also do it in a way where I tour your communities so I'm up to date on what you're offering. Like you combine that together. That's a good use of my time.
And I think quality over quantity. So
Yeah, for sure.
if you are having a Muddy Boots tour, which I highly recommend that you do to educate realtors, you do a Muddy Boots tour, so you limit it. And also when things are limited, people feel an urgency about them. So it's amazing that you get a higher caliber. You don't just get that person who's maybe coming out for, their lunch for the day.
Yeah.
So I've often said, are you running an all-you-can-eat buffet, or are you, are you in the home building business? Are you trying to sell homes? So, we don't necessarily need to feed all the realtors who couldn't afford to get lunch on their own, but we do want to encourage those realtors to get excited about our product. So, doing something like a very limited Muddy Boots tour. We have a builder here. I love their events that they're doing. We have these lagoon communities in Florida, which are very interesting because they're freshwater lagoons, but they're crystal clear. I keep saying it's all fun and games until somebody gets eaten by an alligator. But
well, I was about to say, like, does the alligator come with each lagoon? Because I'm from Florida. I'm in North Carolina now, but I consider myself a Floridian, and that's home. And a lagoon's gonna have an alligator in it.
It's gonna have an alligator in it. So somehow they've done some things, and you would be able to see the alligator because it is crystal clear. So they are beautiful. But they're offering, like, they'll have a week-long event where you can make an appointment as a realtor and come by and get your headshot done.
Nice.
So
that's a great value add.
It's a wonderful value add, and it's a beautiful backdrop and setting. And I've seen some of these photos, and it's just incredible. So, I think that's a great idea that they're doing that. So I think you have to think a little bit out of the box.
Yeah. The last tip I would give on getting some events back on your calendar for next year is remember that our home buyers, they got used to and were able to take advantage of the remote entry, like the Enter Now or the U-Tour products.
Yeah.
And that whole idea of coming on your own timetable, seeing it at your convenience. So if you do happen to do a realtor event, consider that kind of open-ended and then they can come at their convenience during a set period of time. They get some kind of stamp or something to show that they were there to get entered in for the big prize, but at their convenience. I mean, that was a big thing that we learned in COVID, right? We could have our alcohol delivered to our house. Oh, I meant our groceries. We could have our groceries delivered to us.
Yes, but one and the same, right?
Okay. Yeah, so everything, we got used to these conveniences, and don't you apply them to your home buyers, but don't forget to apply those to your realtor partners too.
People are busy and they are pulled in a lot of directions today. The industry's booming. So I think you have to keep that in mind, because not everybody is going to want to come between 12 and 2. So
right.
Yeah.
And if it's spread out a little bit more, it's more safe because you're not around so many people. Your sales agent has the ability maybe to have more one-on-one conversations. There's just a lot of benefit there to designing something like that. So I think just the design of the event has to have value, convenience, and a little bit of novelty in mind. And if you do that, get ready. People are showing up in force.
Yeah. And it's not just wine and cheese. So if you're thinking about doing a wine and cheese because of that time, think more along maybe having a chef come in.
Yeah.
So that's right. And teach, people how to cook. And, people, they are looking for experiences. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah. And they can go to the grocery store and get the free cheese samples. So they don't need that. I think too, for sales teams, like one-on-ones, again, we have this mindset, we have to have 50 realtors or for it to be considered a success. No, the more valuable ones are those one-on-ones. So invite a realtor to coffee, invite a realtor to lunch, get to know them and talk about, you're like, well, what am I going to talk about? They're people. So just, talk to them about what's going on in their world. How's their business? How can you partner together and grow both businesses. You don't need thousands of realtors. And in fact, you don't want thousands of realtors, trust me. What you want are, I've always said, for most of us, if you want 50 sales a year, 25 realtors that are going to bring you 2 deals a year, that's 50 sales right there. So just, you don't need to stop e-blasting realtors. So just please stop the madness.
Yes,
I'm
please
just begging.
stop that.
Yes. All they do is hit delete and get annoyed. And they're like, oh, there's ABC Builder again. Oh, there's ABC. They don't even associate you in a good way. So just stop the madness on that one. So we're also, we were just talking about the International Builder Show. So that's going to be back in person. Last year it was virtual. It was an interesting experience for, I think, everybody.
All of us. Yep.
Yeah. And I just hot off the presses heard that almost 1,200 entries for the nationals this year.
That's fantastic.
So, people are entering, they're planning on winning, they're planning on getting dressed up. So, again, people are open to every awards show that I've seen. I mean, people they're attending them. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So keep all of that in mind, and just, kind of get out of your own box with what you're doing. I know one of my builders is that we were talking about one of the events they're sponsoring a run. It's like I don't know, I think it's a 5K and then there's a half marathon or something. You go across bridges but the last mile of the run is going to be their mile. So they've got all these fun little things planned for the last.
Cool.
And of course, that's when all the coverage, local coverage will be. So, look at your community too. Look what's happening in your community and kind of test the waters and gauge the temperature there. So, because we can have some community goodwill and still have events or be part of them.
Yep, for sure. And that was our topic last week in town hall, was how do you do good in the community and it be good for your business? And events for charitable organizations or local types of organizations was a big thing that builders mentioned as a way to do it.
Yep. Home buyer seminars. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of builders go back to doing home buyer seminars where, they have their lender, here's our process. Here's what you need to know if you're thinking about building. And, particularly for my scatter site builders, those type of things work really well because you get people earlier in the funnel. When you're a scatter site builder, meaning, you're not building in communities or you don't necessarily have your own land, then that buyer tends to identify themselves to you much further down the funnel. But when they come in earlier in the funnel by doing these home buyer seminars, you can nurture them and really educate them and bring them along. And there's a great deal of gratitude because it is a little more complicated when you got to go out and buy the land and, you have to have your perk test.
Totally.
Can you figure out what will fit on this home site and, all of that. So, all right, well, let's take a shift here. And so I think and share again, anybody has any fun events coming up, please share in the comments here. Let's talk about the elephant in the room for any of our realtors who happen to be on, and that's the whole iBuyer thing. I saw an email this morning from one of the brokers that I work with, and it was like, in case you haven't seen, Zillow is getting out of the iBuyer program, and I'm like, okay, yeah, they are. Maybe they shouldn't have been in it to begin with.
They, in spectacular fashion, they are getting out. I mean, it's, it's one thing to
lost in just this quarter alone.
Yeah, it's one thing to pause a particular division of your company. It's another thing to lose $500 million while you do it, right? And have to do it after having spent 3 years really promoting and pushing, and this is going to be our whole future, and this is everything. And just to alleviate if there's any confusion out there, companies like the Zillow offer program, OfferPad, Open Door, I'm sure there's more. We lump them into a category called like a little I, like iPhone. We call them iBuyer. So when Kimberly's saying iBuyer, I think we all know that, but just in case.
Yeah, no, good.
Just in case,
point.
I want to clarify. And I've seen so many Facebook posts, Kimberly, about iBuyers are done. iBuyers were stupid to begin with. iBuyers are blah, like as a blanket statement. And so that's why I thought for our future vision for 2022, I wanted to address this because in my opinion, IMO, right? In my opinion, I think Zillow's situation was unique. I don't expect to see a collapse of the iBuyer business model. I think there's some other companies out there doing it well and doing it
very well. Yeah.
Very well. And they're smart about it. And so I thought, let's put this one on the list. Let's not jump to the conclusion that this is done. And the reason I say that is because it meets a customer pain point. There are a certain percentage of customers who need to sell a home who, for whatever reason, can't or don't want to do showings. They're willing to take a little less for it, perhaps, not in every case, but they like the technology aspect of doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of our new construction buyers, it's just such an amazing program. Okay, so I'm going to go buy a home with Lennar. It'll be done mid-January. I'll sell in my existing house now through Open Door, but I get to still live here until mid-January. But yes. I know my home is sold and I know for how much. So it alleviates a pain point. So just caution for 22, don't jump on, I think, the bandwagon of just assuming these are all going down in flames.
And our friends at OfferPad, I have their little brochure here because I met with Mike from there, and they are paying realtors. So for my realtor friends who got really upset when this whole iBuyer thing came along
mm-hmm.
and said, well, you're taking business away from us. I'm not sure that was business you had to begin with. So,
mm-hmm.
and now there's a way you can actually benefit from it. So that was OfferPad's program. I think Open Door has something similar. I'm not sure, but I know for sure that they do, and they're paying 3% as long as the home wasn't already listed. If it's in the MLS, then no, they're not touching that. But if you have a buyer who's looking at new construction and they need to time that, I moved twice last year in 2020. It was awful.
Awful.
So yeah. It is not fun to move and to have to move twice, especially right now when you can't find a short-term rental. I mean, Airbnb and VRBO are just, try to book a site. I was trying to book something for the International Builder Show. I checked out all of the sites, and yeah, not to be found, right?
No.
So it's tough on people. And there has always been that element of convenience, and people are willing to pay for convenience.
Yeah. Well, it's like what you were talking about at the beginning about what you do as a management consultant and what your company does is this idea of creating this experience, right, that people feel good about. And anytime opportunity meets easy to use technology and then divided by, if we're making a formula here, a particular pain point equals success, that's just how the world has worked. I mean, that's how Uber came to be, and Instacart, and all of the various technology that we all use now. And that was technology plus opportunity plus a pain point. That's all it is. So I just thought we'd put it on our list for 22. We might be very surprised and something changed with the other ones, but it feels like, from what investigative reading I've done, and you were talking in pre-show you've done, that this Zillow issue was very specific to them.
It has to do with their estimate and their algorithm. And they bought their own Kool-Aid, or drank their own Kool-Aid. So yeah,
it's a head scratcher for sure, because Zestimates have been the mocking point of the industry, have been our own joke. Like we've all been laughing at them for years. So I don't know how they didn't know that, but that happened. So,
but the buyers didn't know it, and it was always kind of a pain point for realtors to go,
your
estimate is wrong.
Awful.
I've had to have that conversation with people even within my own family. They're like, well, my Zestimate says, and I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
my
you
God,
really
no.
cannot believe that.
They're a joke. And apparently they did not know that at corporate. So, but I think if the iBuyer is smart on what they're buying, how much they buy it for, how fast they can turn it, what they sell them for, I just feel like it's probably here to stay.
It is. It's not going to be the solution for everybody. There are those buyers who need their hands held through the process.
100%.
So if you think you're, as a builder, well, if I offer this, then I don't have to do it. No, you're still going to have realtors, and you should. But again, educate those realtors, create VIPs, build relationships with them. And then you have, it's fantastic how it works. I mean, it's amazing that you have, this outside sales force, and you have somebody you can call when you need, the buyer picked up at the airport, or, the somebody has to help them with the kids, or, I mean, like all the things that realtors do that aren't their job is pretty darn incredible.
Yeah.
Not that I encourage them to do that, but they still, realtors, it's a personal service.
Yeah.
They're there to handhold the buyer, and no computer is ever going to hold your hand through the process.
No.
Your realtor will do that. So I think we do need to pay attention to some technology trends too. I mean, we like to think that we're just going to force buyers back into the way it always was. And our buyers told us loud and clear, no, we want to shop when we want to shop. We want information on your website. So if you are one of those builders not putting your pricing on the website because it's changing too much, get over it and get somebody to do some data entry, because buyers need to know, what is the price of this home. They may be shocked to find out that it's too high for them, or too low for, they may go, oh, I can buy more. But they need to know before they even identify themselves to you, and they're just going to go to your competitor who has it on the website. I mean, we've said this for years. Buyers told us loud and clear, make the process easier. Renderings, I think, having good virtual, interactive, artificial intelligence renderings where the buyer can play around with options and really help them to visualize things. I mean, how important do you think that is now? I mean,
incredibly important. And that technology is, technology marches on while the rest of us sit around and watch Netflix. It progresses and gets better and better. And so those of you that might have renderings on your site now that were the cutting edge 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's time to revisit.
Yeah.
Because our vendor partners that do those, I mean, they are coming up with advances to those all the time. And you really, if you're going to make that investment, you want the latest and greatest. I know of one that is able to do pricing in the interactive floor plan.
Yep.
So it's not just even a base price that we're begging you to give people on the website. It's actually allowing them to see how much the fireplace addition is, how much third bedroom, like as you play with the interactive floor plan, it's pricing out some things for you, which is a whole nother level of transparency we haven't had.
Yeah. And you don't have to price out every option right now.
No.
Enough that the buyer can go, hey, I could have this home with this elevation, on this home site, and all of that.
It's some basic. Some basic pricing. So it's not such a mystery what these structural options, what the cost price range is-ish. I think it's a great advancement. And that's just one off the top of my head. There's a lot more.
There's so much. Yeah.
Talk to those
Media Lab tweeted this week about pairs. And I was like, Media Lab's tweeting, you get the alert on your, pairs. What is Media Lab talking about pairs? And you go, and there's this beautiful rendering, and it shows, the black and white version of it, and then it shows the color version, and it was like you wanted to reach into that photo and grab a pear and eat it. It looked so real.
So cool. Cool.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. So and they're not the only ones, but I just happened to see that tweet this week. So look at technology. I think you have to invest. You invested in your model homes for years.
Yeah.
that money can be redirected into your technology. You need fewer model homes to
100%.
still do the same amount of business. So while I still believe in model homes,
Of course.
because people do want to touch things, but we've got to get them excited about it so they're willing to make the trek to come in. Because right now, and we've always said, people eliminate you on the web. They don't necessarily buy from you on the web. And now maybe we're seeing that more than just military buyers may buy from you on the web. So,
yep.
You know,
for
you
sure.
got to have it there or you're going to be left behind for sure.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. And then we had a nice little reminder here about rental communities.
Yes. Yeah.
That's huge right now. That we're expecting it to be about 10 to 20% of the new home production.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a huge, we're not talking like iBuyers like 3%, right? We're talking 10 to 20%. And you could be competing with these rental communities. So even if that's not your market and your company isn't doing that, I think you need to pay attention to what's going on out there.
Absolutely. And a lot of the Zillow properties that they're looking to unload are, rental leasing companies are looking at picking those up in bulk. So kind of pay attention in your local market to what's going to happen to those. Are they going back out to be priced uber competitively, so against you, or are they going into a leasing program? Like what, just pay attention.
Yeah. And a lot of people have checked out because they're like, this buying process is just too ridiculous. So they're signing 1-year leases. These are people, you can still nurture people. Go, oh, well, they didn't buy from me. They signed a lease. So then they ignore them. No, those people in your CRM, maybe they're rated a C, but you're still reaching out. You're still touching base with them. You're helping them through the process. So
that very loud noise is my very small 9-pound dog snoring his head off.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm gonna toss a Sharpie at him. No, I missed. I was gonna try to kind of wake him up so he would stop snoring so loud, but he's just like so loud.
That's so funny.
Yeah, no, he's out. So we'll deal with it. But yeah. He's clearly finding me riveting. He can't hear you because you're in my ears, but he can hear me and he's clearly over it.
He's like, this is a very one-sided conversation, Meredith. Why are you talking to?
I know. All right. So our third future vision for 2022 we had was thinking about the new home sales specialists who were hired in 2020 or 21. And so this frenzy of buying and them basically trying to take it away from you, you're like, no, you can't have it. This order taking, this is gonna may come to a shift in 22. And
I would argue it already has. And
yeah. One of our clients here in Raleigh mentioned to me last week that it's still happening, but the very heavy migration patterns of large volumes of folks coming out of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania has really slowed.
Yeah.
And I would say, for the home buyers that are parents, and that's certainly not everybody, but for those folks, once school starts, we're kind of locked in. We're going to stay put mostly. So I think the start of school slowed some of the heavy migration patterns. Right. Now, my Dallas builder, they're saying we're still getting plenty of people out of California
because it's California. And they're leaving California for a whole different reasons. It's like the Illinois buyer is leaving Illinois for a whole different set of reasons.
Yes, it's true. And Dallas is a major relocation hub for corporate relocation, technology, et cetera. So just know your own market. But for, more normal market like a Raleigh, North Carolina, it seems to have really slowed down. Well, that's a chunk of buyers that were doing all of this frenzied buying before. So yeah, to your point, it has begun to shift already. And if I just would like our sales leaders to be aware, think through your roster. did you hire in 20 and 21 that really knows no other way, that needs some coaching and training right now?
Without a doubt. And even those that, I worked with, I've been working with this very experienced team who, I mean, Northern Virginia is always a hot market, right? But things have changed for them and they're very experienced. They've been through the ups and the downs, but this one lasted, long enough that we got rusty.
Yeah.
And there are certain things, I mean, we're doing blocking and tackling and, not literally, we're not tackling buyers, but where do you stand? How do you,
Yeah.
when you're back in the model and you've got buyers coming in, I'm hearing phrases like, there's all these looky-loos, and I'm like, okay, remember back, 2019, first part of
Yeah.
2020, when you had people who just came in the model? We didn't
Yeah.
they weren't all looky-loos,
No.
people they're looking for something, and we just have to slow them down a little bit and get real with them. So
Yeah. So just be cognizant that as a leader in your organization, you probably need to spend some time and money and effort, certainly with anybody that if they haven't been on prior to 2020,
absolutely,
then their view of new home sales is just of something that none of us had ever seen before. It was really revolutionary. And so there may be some adjusting, just learning to ask questions again, learning to get conversation going again, because what they've been doing is people have literally, I want to buy this one and I want to buy it here.
mm-hmm.
And and it was just such a direct conversation. They were literally trying to close
like, are you qualified? I'm not going to schedule an appointment with you till you send me over your pre-qualification.
Yeah.
You don't normally, that's not normal.
No. Normally, when they come in and you have to make conversation happen. Just that skill alone is one to remember.
You have to build a relationship. And, I tell people all the time, I have discovery questions as a free download on my website. So take them, read them, because if you're asking people how many bedrooms, how many square feet, how many bathrooms do you want? And, what's your price point? Then you're not asking the right questions. We need to understand their why. We need to understand the how. And who, we don't even bother to find out who's going to be living in the home.
Yeah.
Maybe full-time or part-time, or, how do people visit you? And, all kinds of stuff that we really have got to get back to. And, I've had some seasoned and some new people go, I don't know if I can ask those questions. Well, if you don't, you're going to get left behind, because people buy from people they know, like, trust, and remember.
Yeah. Also think about putting on your training agenda those migration patterns that drove so many of our sales. A lot of those were from much more expensive markets to less expensive markets.
Yes.
So, your prices were up, however, 20 on average, about 20%. And the price really wasn't that much of an issue. Because if I'm coming from California with $1 million home, which would be a very average price home there, 1,600 square feet for $1 million, but I come to Raleigh, North Carolina,
3,000 square feet.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of home, and probably bank some monies too if you're smart while you're at it,
Right.
And so you haven't, price is not something, budget, that's not something you've had to address or overcome for nearly 2 years. Objections, that's not something you've dealt with heavily. Again, they were trying to close you that you could sell them something, and you're like, no, you can't have it. We can't finish it.
Right.
So that's something. Another thing we have not dealt with, and this is pre-COVID, this goes back several years, inflation as a topic, as an objection. A lot of your people, even the ones pre-COVID hires, they haven't dealt with inflation. Mm-mm. So I would just say,
and that affects your buying power. So I just want to connect the dots of where you're going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, if you're a sales leader, make a list of what's been, put a T on your legal pad, and what's been unique to selling in the COVID economy. And as we hopefully, pray to God, transition out of that, what holes, what are the vacuums in your team's knowledge, skills, and attitudes that needs to be plugged before you get 6 months into 22, you don't have as many sales as you thought you would. You're behind the 8 ball, and now you're calling one of us to help you fix it, which we'll be glad to do. But
it's so much
you're
easier
behind
if it
the
doesn't
8
get
ball
broken.
at that point.
Yeah, if it doesn't get broken to start with. Yeah, without
it's too late. Yeah.
So interest rates too are, it's not just the inflation and the gas and, looking at the convenience factor of maybe being in one of your communities versus where they're living now. You have to factor in energy calculations. So,
Yes.
How much there've been many times where people have said, I can't afford to be in this community, or I can't afford this option or whatever. And I look at them and I can literally do a cash flow analysis and go, you're going to be in the positive here. Do you understand that $500 utility bill that you're used to in August? You're not going to have that now.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be like $150. So let's talk about that extra $350 now.
Yeah, because we need that for gas, for groceries, those things have all gone up. And at some point, and this is where we're saying, start training to it now and just getting ready, practicing, role playing, doing all the good things, because yes, we are underbuilt for the amount of demand for new homes. So we should continue to see strong demand through 22. On the other side of the scale is the fact that people are up several $100s a month in household expenses, and inflation is rising. So, and then there's issues of jobs and so forth over the mandate. So is unemployment going to go up? Is our household buying power not going to be as strong? We don't know. We can't project either way, but be prepared and train to those objections.
The economists were proven wrong. I mean, they're the ones that are supposed to know this stuff, and they thought the inflation was going to be a little temporary blip, and we're seeing because of supply, because the supply chain right now is broken. So, it's going to take a while to dig ourselves out of that. And of course, the holiday season won't help. I think we should mention about our OSCs, our online sales counselors too. Refocus with them, and they also need to have some of the objection handling skills. For some of this basic stuff, they need to be.
What I see in the training coaching I'm doing is they have not had to ask for an appointment in over a year, at least.
Them for an appointment.
Yeah, people are like, they're begging them, and so getting back to asking for set and appointments, not just I'll have somebody call you type thing. We've really got to get back on that. And then a lot of them let their follow-up processes drop for what I call their ghost leads. So they're leads that started out communicating, but then they've ghosted and now they're gone. And it's like, I'm trying to get you back into the fold of communicating with me. And a lot of those follow-up processes, we stopped them, frankly, because there was just too many leads. We didn't even need those ones. Well, you got to get that stuff turned back on and get back to the appointment setting for sure.
And you can use some technology to help you with this. I mean, our good friend, Chris Hartley, shared with me, when things were starting to go south a little bit for them, they actually reached out to dead leads using Atlas RTX AI technology in texting, and texted leads to say, hey, where are you in your buying process? And it was amazing how they uncovered like some leads really quickly. And they were able to turn this just went to their dead file. It didn't go to anybody else. It only went to their dead file. But you're not going to get that if you don't register people. And that's the other thing I'm seeing, because we're so busy, we're not registering and capturing people.
Think about how many people wanted to buy a home, but didn't get the opportunity to. Maybe they submitted a bid to one of the builders that was doing the open bid processes. I mean, only one can win, right? All those other people, they didn't get to buy a home, at least not from that builder. You need to know, did they get to buy a home at all? So reviving those with conversations, whether you do it by text or email or phone or carrier pigeon, it doesn't matter what channel you use. You just need to reach back out to them. So yeah, I definitely wanted to mention our OSCs in here while we were talking about kind of getting our salespeople back up to steam on what they need to know. Well, don't forget your OSCs.
Well, and our good friend Leah Fellows from Blue Gypsy tells us all the time that, you know, the nurturing qualities that a good OSC has is, you know, it's key, because your salespeople are busy managing their pipelines, keeping people happy. Unfortunately,
right.
telling them that their windows are not going to be in, and that's why their windows are boarded up, so we can continue building their home. And, you know, so all of that, you need your OSCs for those things. So
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have just a few minutes left here. Let's, I know we talked about like consolidating marketing channels or just maximizing your return on investment with marketing channels.
Yeah.
So let's hit that in our last few minutes and get those questions and those comments in here. We're not quite done yet. So go ahead and get those in.
Well, real quickly, I wanted to bring up this topic, the consolidation of marketing channels. By a channel, I mean Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the platform itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll continue to see the big ones buy the little ones. I think we'll continue to see a lot of importance and scrutiny of these marketing channels. And so my advice on this is for next year is don't rely too heavily on any one of them, because the next thing you know, it's gotten bought by somebody else. The government has shut it down. Like these marketing channels are more volatile than they've ever been, with people concerned over privacy and big data and the whole thing. I just watch what's happening. I mean, take Zillow. I mean, I don't think any of us saw Zillow shutting Zillow offer down like overnight. You know, just remember, these channels that you're marketing on, you don't own them. The only digital asset you own is your website, which is why I've always advocated for blogging, because it's on your website, right?
Right.
All these other things you advertise on, they could go away tomorrow. So have a nice mix. Don't rely too heavily on just one, and just keep your ears to the ground and the rumor mill and just pay attention. So that if it seems like one's going down or not as effective because we can't do as much targeting as we used to because of privacy regulations, then decrease the spend in that one, increase it somewhere else.
But don't make the assumption that one size fits all. I think you've always been a big proponent of that. So, you know, what you're doing on Facebook, you're probably not going to do on Instagram, because you can't put links in Instagram. So, you know, that's where, like that link tree that I showed you, that's where that can come in handy. And, you know, that sort of thing. Just make sure you're not just aggregating and just blasting out to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, like all the same message. Make it channel appropriate.
Yeah. And just have a nice mix.
Yes.
You know, the magic's in the mix of what you're doing. And that's where I'm saying, get some events back into your mix. Like, just mix it up and don't rely too heavily on any one digital platform, because who knows?
Yes.
Who knows who's going to jail next? I'm talking about these corporate leaders. Like, I mean, it's like, what is happening? So yeah.
Make it personal. I think, you know, that one thing that this pandemic has taught us is the value of those personal relationships. So make your marketing personal.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Don't just keep, you know, just spewing out stuff, and make your sales process very personal too.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is 5 future vision topics right there.
Look at that.
I don't know if, you know, what people expected to hear or what they think the future looks like for 22. I know I'm excited to find out and to experience it. I think we've all gained a little bit of confidence and maybe even a little swagger of how we did come together and handle ourselves in 20 and 21 when something got thrown at us that literally no one in many generations had been asked to face. And we did, and we thrived in it. And so we can go into 22 knowing, look, some of us have been doing this long enough. We've experienced a complete collapse of the industry and a downturn and a rebirth. And then now all of us that are currently in the industry have now sold through a pandemic. Good grief.
We trial by fire, you know.
Yeah. We did
So-
it though.
But we can't forget the lessons that we've learned in both of those
Yes.
situations. I think, sometimes we get busy in the day to day and we forget. So I'm glad to see, at least with the clients I'm working with, I'm glad to see that people are thinking, hey, what's next? So I
Mhm.
hope this was helpful for people to start to think about that. And,
You bet.
I don't know that we had any shocking revelations, but really good reminders and some
Yeah.
trends to certainly pay attention to.
Well, and that's the thing, that's really what sales training and education or marketing consulting, it's reminding people of what they used to know. I mean, you guys are all very professional, you know what you're doing, but you do forget, you do get rusty, as Kimberly said, you do fall into bad habits. We all do. So we're just here to remind you of what you used to know.
Well, and I will send out the recording. I want to thank you, Meredith, for taking your valuable time. I know how busy you are.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for joining us today, and we'll get the recording out to everybody. So,
Yeah.
and if you have any questions, reach out to either of us. I'll make sure in the follow-up that you have both of our emails. So thank you very much. And you
Thank
guys have a great
you.
week.
Thank you. Thanks, Kimberly.